Hello, this is Christina Barr, and you're watching Black Tea News. Hello, welcome to Black Tea News. I'm your host, Christina Barr, and today we'll be talking about Trump getting his mugshot, which he really didn't need to do. Apparently, they just needed a recent photo, and of course, he has a recent photo, so it was just them being petty and them being excited. But I saw a TikTok, and you know that scene from Predator when Arnold Schwarzenegger, and it's like the hand clap thing, and you see their muscles bulge. A lot of people will use that for like people coming together on something, and it was like Trump supporters and anti-Trump people, and when they collided, they showed like the mugshot, because people on the left are like, yeah, they finally got him, aha, and people on the right like, let's, I don't know, put this on shirts and buy shirts, and like I saw people like wanting it so bad last night, and Trump campaign is really very strategic with it. So I guess people from both sides are getting what they want out of it, though Joe Biden made himself look like a clown for tweeting, you should donate to my campaign, which just solidifies the fact that so much of this is political. So they make it obvious, and when it looks political, Trump just really wins, and that's why so many people rally around him. But today I want to talk about like all this was going on with Trump versus like DeSantis is making a different pitch. Like if we focus on those things in the past, we're going to have a bad time, but we can focus on, good governance and lead forward and have victories. And so, Trump was, getting arrested, having his mugshot taken yesterday, while DeSantis was like at the Field of Dreams, like from the movie Field of Dreams, which I did not see until recently, actually. And so we'll be talking about that. Also, NBC put out an article criticizing Vivek. I have to keep remembering Vivek like cake. They were criticizing him over his immigration policy, and they basically said he was encouraging white supremacy. So we have another brown face of white supremacy, kind of like what they're talking with Larry Elder. It also seems in the article that they're kind of dissing the model minority type of situation as well. So we'll go through it. It's really ridiculous. I've had some strong criticisms for Vivek as of late, and I imagine I will continue to have them. He did something today that was annoying to me too. But today I got to defend him because the media is just so gross, so grotesque. And I'd also like to show you guys this video that Live Action put out, because there's a narrative that the Democrats keep trying to push that no one is for abortions up until the time of birth. And there's literally people on record saying they don't support any limitations on abortion. So what do you think that means? So words have meanings. So they made a montage. They got to it before I did, so that doesn't mean I'm not going to make one, but they made one, then they have quite a few people in there. So I think it's important to see, so I'm going to show you guys. Before we jump into it, I want to encourage you guys to go to blackteanews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. If you like what I do here, please consider leaving a donation on the website. It costs to stream, it costs to run my website. I do have some needs that I would like to cover. So if you guys can go the extra mile to support Black Tea News, there is a link in the description that will take you to the website so you can go ahead and donate on the site. Thank you so much if you can. Any little bit helps, and I thank you guys for you who give like small donations, like $10 and so on. And some of you have given more. Again, I it's so very appreciated, and I literally could not do what I do without you guys, because when you guys help to cover that overhead, that really helps me be able to focus on writing and stories and other stuff. And it is still just me, like, running the site and the several different social media and other things like that. So I like to do more on the ground things. I like to travel more, especially in Ohio, where they got some pretty terrible things coming up on the ballot. Hopefully we can save them in a way that we couldn't save Michigan, though I appreciate those of you who tried and helped to try. So if you can support, again, thank you. But I do thank you guys for watching live. Thank you guys who watch it back later. I am monetized on YouTube and Facebook. Facebook, though, I think you can only do stars. I think that's the only way it's monetized. So if you want to participate that way, you can do that. On YouTube, you can do super chats. Not everything stays monetized, because we talk about some things that sometimes they find to be insensitive or whatever. I don't know. So sometimes they let stuff remain monetized. Sometimes they do not. So in the meantime, just thank you guys for all that you do. I also want to say that if you are in Michigan or like to travel, you're close to the area, Tucker Carlson is coming to Michigan on September the 10th. It's for Brighter Michigan PAC's America Safety First program. They've done it several years, and they honor local law enforcement, first responders, and so on. They give out scholarships. This is the first time they're doing something to this level, this big. So I'd really like it to do well. So there is a link in the description that will take you to a page where you can buy a ticket. Tickets start at $50. Those are the ones like on the grass and stuff, but like in the back. But mine are closer and mine are discounted. So if you want to use that link and get a discounted link, you can price you can. And if you want to sit somewhere else and buy a ticket elsewhere, that's great too. But I appreciate those who are willing to come and want to hear Tucker Carlson and support the work that the Brighter Michigan PAC does. I talked yesterday about how they really did stand by me and supported me and really facilitated me in a way that I could really grow. So if you like what I do, you'd like what they do. So if you would like to go, and I hope we run into each other, so make plans to come see Tucker Carlson on September the 10th. And again, the link is in the description. And I do have new merch, but I will get to that in a moment. And if you've been following me on social media this morning, you know what I will show you, but I will show you later. I do have a meme. I do have a meme for you guys. Well, it's not quite a meme. It's a Babylon Bee headline, and goes right into what we're talking about today. Breaking: Trump indicted again for looking too stunningly handsome in mugshot. So at first I wasn't like into the mugshot. I wasn't crazy about it, but I was like, why they have that look? But I think I changed my mind, especially when I started messing up in Photoshop. I'm like, it is pretty intense. It's pretty intense. It's pretty like determined. I heard Ben Shapiro say, and the joke about the being too stunningly handsome. It sounds like something that he would say. So the humor is good on that. Trump is just a funny guy, whether you dislike him or not. He's very funny. And also goes with, there's so many videos like on TikTok of Trump being indicted. If you remember when he was told that Ruth Bader Ginsburg died, and they're playing gosh, uh, who did the song? There's a song in the background. He's like near his plane or something. I think he's coming from a rally. He's like, "Oh, I didn't know that. I'm hearing for that for the first time." And so people have cut out that video of Trump, that little snippet, and they just green screen him like on other stuff. So it's like they use that video and he's like behind the leaning tower of Pisa. They're like Trump arrested again for, not pushing it back in place. And they just keep listing like all these silly things that he's arrested for. So there's a lot of people out there who feel that the arrests are political, that they are silly, and we know that some of the arrests are silly. Again, it's not a good look for Joe Biden to say, "Hey, now's a good time to donate to my campaign." The moment when Trump is supposed to surrender himself to be booked and like have a mugshot taken again, that wasn't necessary. They didn't need to have his mugshot. There's a lot of recent photos of Trump, but hey, they wanted it. And by the way, Trump and his team wanted it too. They probably really practiced or talked about, or maybe they didn't need to. I mean, Trump is, good with his face. Uh a lot of different pictures and looks that he has are pretty iconic. So he knows how his face will look on camera. So he could have just been like, "This is what I'm gonna do," and he, went in, and it's a very iconic photo already. But back in I think when he was indicted in the Bragg case in New York, his team was already planning what they would do with the mugshot. They were already planning that. Like I had posted some photos of some stuff that I did, and they're like, "Oh, everybody's making money." I'm like, "Look." The Trump team wanted this image and stuff, and so much to the point, back in the Bragg thing, when he didn't get a mugshot, they just made a fake mugshot and started selling merch. So everybody knows the name of the game, so I'm not going to apologize for making a shirt or two that people are out there saying we want it, so I made it. but Trump, them, they're selling it like hotcakes or whatever, mugs and all kinds of different stuff. Though I don't think the stuff looks very good. The Hodge twins have a very good shirt out with Trump's face, and behind him is like a lineup thing with his height, standing at 6'3". But and he's tall. So I heard some people surprised at how tall he was when I was on a live last night, or I was listening to a live, and people, I don't like, I guess if you haven't seen him in person, but he's quite tall. Um I haven't been I've been close enough to be like right behind him, like literally like at a rally. In I guess I've seen him at the White House. And at different events. But yeah, he's tall. He is tall. He's not 215 though. He's not 215. That's cap. But he is tall. He is tall. Um yeah, so I guess I'll go ahead and show my stuff, since I said am selling it. But yeah, the he actually tweeted it last night. Truth Social has some kind of deal with Trump, or I mean, it's Trump's stuff, but what makes it so important is the fact that Trump can't really post anywhere live stuff until it's on Truth Social, and it has to be on Truth Social for a particular amount of time. So it was a big deal to see him tweet. And it's not tweet anymore because they changed it, but I don't like the new X thing from Elon, so I still call it Twitter. I mean, the handle's still Twitter. I don't like it at all. I don't like the logo. I don't like it. But I didn't buy it, so what can you do? What can you do? But let me read what he actually put on his website from the actual. If you go to Twitter, There's a picture of his mugshot that he tweeted, and it said "Never surrender," and he has a link to his website. And it pops right up, and it says a personal note from the president. Let me share my screen. I don't know if you guys, so you can at least see it. I don't know if you guys want me to read it because this font looks pretty small on my end. So if you see me squinting, that's what's going on. I'm trying to read it. Um, Today at the notoriously violent jail in Fulton County. Let me see if I can. Oh, zoom in it. Oh, a little too much. There we go. A personal note from President Donald J. Trump today at the notoriously violent jail in Fulton County, Georgia. I was arrested despite having committed no crime. And by the way, the media, I mean, everybody knows this is a pretty bad jail. And it seems like the media is giddy about it, which is pretty gross. But um, the American people know what's going on. What has taken place is a travesty of justice and election interference. The left wants to intimidate you out of voting for a political outsider who puts the American people first. But today I walked into the lion's den with one simple message on behalf of your entire movement. I will never surrender our mission to save America. If you are doing poorly due to the sinister people in control of our country right now, don't even think about donating. But if you can, please make a contribution to evict crooked Joe Biden from the White House and save America during this dark chapter in our nation's history. Thank you and God bless. And they should send out another email noting Joe Biden is trying to fundraise off of that and just be like more evidence that this is crooked. But this is a good statement from Trump writing that up. A lot of people are really praising this line about if you are doing poorly, don't even think about donating. I wonder if it's also to combat a lot of pushback that people and criticisms that people have been giving Trump as of late, because so much of his legal bills in the campaign trail have been sucking up campaign funds, and a lot of big donors aren't giving to Trump and won't give to Trump. Period. Even when he's the nominee, don't expect a lot of big donors to jump in, because one, a lot of them don't want him to be president, and two, yes, even at the risk of Joe Biden winning again, um they don't want him to be president. So that's one reason. But two, and maybe this one's, I don't know which one is rated top above them of the reason, but they don't want all of their money, if they donate it, to go into paying lawyers. And he does pay them a lot, especially because he keeps like switching them out and they have to play catch up and stuff. So he is paying a lot of bills, and he'll have a lot of different trials running. And so I don't know how much money he can raise all together. um but people have been saying there's these, people characterizing it as if he's cleaning out the savings accounts of elderly people so he can pay his um legal fees. So there's been, chatter like that online, by a lot of people, his critics and stuff. So having that line in there about don't, donate, that's pretty sweet, and he's getting a lot of praise from different people for that particular line. So that's a really nice touch. Trump having that, the thing that makes him so powerful is his perception of he will fight for everyone, and he's being persecuted because he's fought for everyone. So that's why so many people stand beside him, um, and stand behind him, because they do truly feel like he's looking out for the best interest, and that's why they hate him. And they don't really hate him. There's that famous picture of him in like the dark, and he's pointing, and in these words say, um they're not really after me, they're after you, I'm just in the way. So as long as that perception holds, it's going to be hard for anyone to break through the Trump voter base. um the only thing that can really break that is we can still try to help him, but he's still going to lose in 2024, and we can't allow things to get worse. But there's a lot of people who don't believe he lost the first time. So if he didn't lose before, what makes you think he'll lose again? But I guess the pushback to that would be, well, if he lost, if it was stolen before from him, how's he going to prevent it from being stolen now if he doesn't really do anything different? So there's that kind of a counterpoint. But there's a lot of people who really want to support him, but they're still like, but I'm concerned if he's electable, is what they'll say. So but I don't know. There's definitely people that I've heard that argument from a lot of people, but from personal experience from a lot of people I know within the party involved in politics, I would think that there's more people, especially on the grassroots level, who are like he's fighting for us, we're gonna stand beside him. Period. And they don't believe that that he can't be reelected. A lot of them don't believe that he lost at all. So they definitely believe that he can be reelected. And they believe that because he's being persecuted so much, that other people will wake up and see how corrupted everything is, and they'll come around to this side and they'll support Trump. Now, and I don't know how much that's really going to work out. I do see people saying, you know what, I didn't vote before, but these people are so terrible, and I'm waking up and I'm going to support Trump. There are people like that. I don't know how many of those people are out there to make a significant difference, but time will tell. Time will tell. In the meantime, they're playing this. They're playing this up. Well. So I'm sure he's raising a lot of money, and so are his opponents. Ron DeSantis apparently raised a lot of money after the debate, which I told you guys the other day that his performance was like, to me. But I guess a lot of people really felt differently, because they said he raised like $1 million after the debate. I was like, okay, I guess he did I don't know how I'll move him the polls, but they do need money to win. They do need money to win. So I guess good on him, I guess. But I have seen other people make similar criticisms that I had. But since we're on the subject of Trump's mugshot, late last night, I did put this together, and I was tired, but I finished it, and I knew people out there wanted something, and I have been waiting for this photo I have. So available at blacktnews.com. There is hoodie, and that's the back of it. MAGA for life. There's also this cool mug here. Yes, I made the gold chain. So it says MAGA for life also on the mug. So there's that one. And also got it in a t-shirt as well. So anyway, it's available at blacktnews.com. Go ahead and get your merch. Everybody's selling merch. And I'm not gonna apologize for it. Will not do it. Everybody's doing the same thing. Anyway, DeSantis is pitching something very different. So they had two very different sort of days. So and someone had tweeted out the contrast of what Trump was going through and what DeSantis was going through. So this is the reason why, if you're wondering why the title is Trump's Vengeance and DeSantis's Field of Dreams, because they actually like were, at the Field of Dreams, and he's from the movie The Field of Dreams. So and again, there's Trump's mugshot, which apparently again is just going crazy on the internet. Going to be the most looked at photo, probably. Definitely the most popular mugshot ever. So DeSantis is pitching a different message for America. You can, if everything is focused on Trump, we're going to have a bad time. If we can focus forward on the future, then we're going to have a good outcome. And so I'll go ahead and play what he's pitching to the voters, and you guys ultimately be the ones that have to decide that.
We want your support in January for the caucus. If this election is about a candidate like me that's a proven leader, got a proven record, has served this country in uniform, and I'm out there every day holding Joe Biden accountable for his failures and showing the American people that there's a better way, that we can reverse the decline of the country, we're going to win across the board. And it's not just going to be me, because this is a team effort. It's going to be Congress, it's going to be U.S. Senate, it's going to be state legislatures, all these things. I think we can have a historic election. But if the election ends up being about what happened in the past, if it ends up being about, personalities and other things like that, well, then Biden is going to be able to sit in his basement again, not have to justify his record, and I think he's going to get away with it. And I think Republicans are going to lose. So this is our choice to put our best foot forward and do it in a way that the issues in the election that should be front and center should be the issues you care about, that affect you, your family, and our country's future. If we're discussing anything else other than that, then we're just playing into the Democrats' hands, playing into the media's hands, and they would like nothing better than to see Biden be able to waltz in again and continue all the destruction that we've seen. So I will be the guy to be able to get the job done, both in the election and then starting January 20th, 2025. Buckle your seatbelts, because we are going to be active. We are going to be very forceful, bold. We're going to lead, and we will reverse the decline of the United States of America. Thank you all. God bless.
So yeah, that's his pitch. If we're looking forward, we're looking at legislation, that's been good for people, and we're just, good governance, and it'll be good for the top of the ticket. It'll be good for everybody else. And there's a case to be made for that, guys. I know there's a lot of like Trump forever, never DeSantis in the comments. Here is the reality that Trump will be fighting all of these cases next year, that it will suck up. I guess it'll suck up so much of the attention anyway. But it's also going to be a major political conversation about the candidate, if he is the candidate. So there won't be any discussion really of policy. Joe Biden might be like, I'm not, debating a felon or something, or a potential felon, and he'll probably be the permanent. I don't know how much basement he'll do. Maybe just he'll be beach Biden. He'll be continue to be like vacation Biden, and not just do anything on the campaign trail. He doesn't necessarily have to like just hide in his basement like he did last time, and just do Zoom calls and stuff. But much of the money will be sucked up for his trials. I wonder how much money that they're making off of stuff, and off of like the different mugshots, and the money that people are donating. And they donated a lot before. Every indictment that drops, he gets a lot of money. I wonder if they will cover everyone else's legal bills, because I know everyone else is I believe was covering them. Well, I don't know if everybody was pretty much covering themselves, but Janet Ellis, for example, was indicted. Now, she's no longer pro-Trump for being president, but she was his lawyer. She's one of the people who are indicted in the case. And so she's raising funds herself. And a lot of people, who are mad that she switched teams, are like, you deserve this, et cetera, blah, blah, blah. And lawyers should not be indicted for doing lawyer work. It's just crazy who they're going after. It is so petty to get Rudy Giuliani on RICO charges. Um, it is so petty because that's how we went after the mobsters, man. So to get him with that over this election stuff is just bonkers, just absolutely bonkers. Um, this case is Alan Dershowitz, knows a lot about the RICO laws, and he just thinks it's bonkers to charge them all with this, that it's not appropriate. He said he could teach an entire class on it, just on the case, and how ridiculous it is. Though this prosecutor does use it quite a bit and has gone after like rappers and school teachers for like racketeering and other stuff like that. So she's tough with it, but is this appropriate to use it in this manner? I wouldn't say so, and a lot of people don't think so either. Do I think some of the other legal cases are, he might be just in trouble because of where it's at, the venue. I don't know how much of the case is going to come together in the actual trial itself. I only think one case is like geez, and that's the documents case, particularly his behavior involving the documents and the fact that he's on tape talking about showing someone classified documents. So he's getting in trouble with that one, I think so. But the Georgia is just a hot mess. It's a really hot mess. But yes, someone said they didn't know that they could use legal fees. People can find a way to pay for stuff with campaign money all the time, but yes, a lot of it is going to his legal bills. So while people should be doing knocking doors and other kind of engagement, it'll be focused on him not going to jail. So this, it is a reality that this will be like so much of the focus of the election cycle, especially, and there's no way to get around it, with him being the nominee. So the question is, will the people be so impassioned at the injustice of going on with Trump that there will be all these voters who didn't vote for him before who want to support him now? Or I don't know about that, because there's a lot of independents who are polled and know that he's being politically prosecuted and kind of don't care, which I think is really gross. And a really sad indictment on our state of the country itself. So the question is, people who are diehard for him right now, how are you going to make the case for him to sway those people? And you could say, well, look at the state of our economy and how awful that Biden is. That's true, but I caution people to just kind of realize that people can get used to a bad thing. People can get used to a bad thing. I live in Michigan, as many of you know. Unfortunately, I guess I can't really imagine living somewhere else because I've just been here my whole life. But I do not like my governor, and we were locked down pretty tight during the pandemic. And I remember one time my aunt was over, one of my aunts, and I was just laying out all the terrible things about Whitmer and what she's, not just all the things that she was doing, but how her rules just didn't make sense. And then how she was like hypocritical with following them as well. So that was another aggravating thing about during the pandemic. So I just laid out like I think an airtight case why she should not be governor, and all the reasons why she was just dumb, and how she was governing poorly and making really bad choices with COVID and etc. And then my aunt was just like, well, what do you want her to do? And I'm just like, what do you mean? I want her to not do these things. I told you that made no sense. There's better choices that you could have made. But once people kind of make up their mind, especially people who are so tribal, it's hard to push them in another direction. So there's a lot of persuasion to be had. There's a lot of persuasion to be had. Because there's a lot of people who remember doing really well and they missed those Trump gas prices and all that kind of different stuff. But there's a lot of people who still think things were done correctly with lockdowns and other things like that. And maybe because they were duped and they can't accept that they were wrong. And even if they were wrong, they'll still have the approach of, well, no one really knew this at the time, and the people who were right were just conspiracy theorists guessing, like some kind of like Sam Harris kind of explanation of events to come. And I'm like, bro, no, it never made sense to lock down. I was always pretty much against lockdowns, I'll have you know. I didn't think it made a lot of sense, because they're like, we need to slow the spread. I'm like, aren't we just prolonging the virus if we slow the spread? Like, and I understood people didn't understand it. And I'm like, can we really slow it down though? And then I saw some data in different places, like in New York, people who stayed home were like catching it more than people going to work, or it was the same or something like that. And I'm like, this isn't making any sense. And then you have the was the Great Barrington Declaration of all these different scientists that were like, no, we should try to preserve society. We should protect those who would be the most vulnerable, like people with different comorbidities or who have immune systems that are compromised, but particularly our elderly. We should protect them as much as possible, but society should keep going. People should go to work, etc. So I felt very validated when that came out, because in my mind, I'm just like, none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense. This isn't what, we would normally do in these kind of circumstances. And then they shut that down. Fauci and other people were like, oh, we got to discredit this. And and so to me, it just never made sense to lock down. I don't totally begrudge Trump for locking down at first, but when some other states started to open up, like Georgia, he was not happy, and he was coming for Kemp and others, and trashing them for locking. He would trash like Georgia for opening up too soon, but then he'd tweet "Liberate Michigan." So he made some. He's not a perfect guy. He made some pretty big mistakes, I think. But people's issue with Trump during the pandemic is that they saw him as not being serious enough, which I always thought was crazy, because I'm like, they're like, well, he's not really wearing his mask. I'm like, he's tested all the time. If he doesn't have it, why does he need to wear his mask? The mask doesn't stop him from getting it. Well, the masks were always dumb, but the argument for the mask was that it stops a person with COVID from spreading it, which also was stupid to me, because I'm like, if you have it, then why are you amongst other people? It didn't make any sense. So people getting mad because he wouldn't wear a mask all the time, when he's trying to give a projection of, we'll make it through this, strength or whatever. And they're like, no, we want to see him muzzled with that mask. And so they perceived him as not being serious enough. I'm like, what do you mean he's not taking the pandemic serious enough? He locked down the country and risked his very good economy. That doesn't make any sense to me. But that was a narrative that people had. People were saying that the DNC had some a girl talking about her father died and was trashing Trump because my father went out and sang karaoke because of Trump. And I'm like, what? I'm very sorry for your loss, but shame on the Democrat Party for using this girl. It's not his fault that a grown man who's in the age bracket of being in the, more at risk. And the older you are, the more at risk you are. But I think he was around like my dad's age, and he looked like a bigger guy, and went out to sing karaoke with his friends. And then they had the nerve to play that in the DNC, and then people are like, oh yeah, Trump, he's killing people. Have the most absurd position. So that's what a lot of people still remember about Trump in that time. So I mean, people are happy they got their $1,200, $600, or whatever. So I'm just saying, if you think all these so many people out there who voted against him before are going to change their mind, you got to make some really persuasive cases for that. And they were crazy the first time. So it's very hard to break through to some of these people. Very hard. Not impossible. Not impossible. So it will be a rough. I'm not saying it's impossible for him to win in 2024. But everyone who's just like so excited because they think everyone's gonna wake up because they're treating their guy so bad. If you're online, chronically online, like I suppose I am, just remember that a lot of that we see are generated via algorithm. The people who you follow, the things that you like, how you comment on things, and what you comment on, it generates other people who have similar opinions to you. I'm not saying that you got the people don't follow people of differing opinions and whatnot, but it's amazing how there's echo chambers on both sides. So a lot of what you perceive is like, oh, everyone's so upset about this. Maybe that's your perception from Twitter or Facebook, your groups that you're in, or your TikTok algorithm. A lot of people went about their day. It was interesting news because it's definitely on the news, but they're not planning for, as what Tim Pool would say, civil war. And by the way, um after January 6th happened, maybe it was the night or the next day, someone that I knew, they weren't at the Capitol, but they did go to the rally. And they were just telling me about what happened and how they were coming home. People were so upset about stuff, and they, because people really were like, oh, they took the country, they took it right from underneath us, and they were like, man, people are really ready to do something. They're really ready to do something. And I was like, I don't believe that. And the reason why, and I'm not saying everybody's, that there's not some people willing to do something, but um I'm like, they just locked everybody down in their homes and closed their businesses, and made them wear masks and other stuff, like if if people were willing to sit back and take that, um I didn't realize how sheeple we were, how many sheep we had. In America, with so many people who were just willing to um be ruled under the boot of the government, and including people who were on the right, like people in Michigan are like, oh, weren't allowed to go to churches. Well, one, I guess if you decided to comply, you decided to comply, but two, no, it said that the churches wouldn't be like fined or something. Our church never stopped having service. We didn't miss a day. As a matter of fact, we started a Bible study throughout the week, and we've been going strong. And praise God, everybody, who's a part of like we call it a youth Bible study, but nobody in there is like a child. It's like it's a very seasoned adult for young people, but we've had a great time, but we didn't have stop having church. If your pastor stopped having church in Michigan, that's a decision that you guys made. Child, shut your doors or whatever for whatever reason, and I understand everybody want to be safe, but like, that was your choice, bro. That wasn't. Some people are like, oh, Whitmer did this. She didn't do that. She didn't do that. And even if they did, I can't see our leadership being like, okay, sure, yeah, we'll just not have church. Like that wouldn't happen in our church. So I don't know. I don't take a lot of people seriously when they say they're like revved up and ready to go. Some of you guys won't even knock doors. Some of you won't even knock doors. Some of you won't even make phone calls. Some of you won't even talk to your neighbors. You get really mad and tweet. How much do you pound the pavement to make a change? How much action do you take? It's a good question to ask. Good question to ask. I'm going to assume a lot of you people who bother to watch a political show every day are somewhat active. But there's a lot of people out there who grumble. And there's a well, in Michigan, the Grassroots like totally took over the Michigan Republican Party. Um Still not a lot of money in the bank though. And one, our Michigan has a lot of really, really big donors, really, really, really wealthy people who usually will fund and give a lot to the party, but they don't like the party chair, and she frankly doesn't care for them much either. So it's the Grassroots who are, totally in charge now. Um, so where's the, if you're not going out there to try to raise funds after, then you still can't run the mechanism. So you can want change, but what are you willing to do to seek and get victory is the question. We have to be more than feelings, more than strong feelings and strongly worded letters, right? So just something to marinate a little bit into. Um Now, if you go like with another candidate outside of Trump, some people don't think anyone else can win against Joe Biden. I think it's sad if no one else could beat him. If people really feel that way. I don't think Joe Biden is at undefeatable. Um but every candidate's going to have some challenges, and Trump, his trials are going to be no joke, guys. And there are people who are going to be very excited to see different like evidence for like, oh, this election stuff's going to be entered into the record. So will but a lot of people will also hear for like in the documents case how Trump was like, yeah, I gave you all the records, and how he lied to his lawyers and had someone fly the documents to another location, and him showing other people documents, and of an audio recording of him showing someone classified information. So it's not everything's going to make Trump look very flattering, guys. And but I think the only televised thing will be in Georgia. I think they plan to televise that. So it'll be TV of the century. It'll be TV of the century. So just want to give you guys a lot to think about, whatever you guys decide to think in the long run. Um Someone in the comments earlier did ask me what I thought of Vivek, and I have strong feelings as of now, and I'm not a fan. And I won't go into today because I'm already over. But well, it's a 5 o'clock. I started late, so I'm not quite over, but it is getting late. But today I need to defend him, or at least come at the media for how they decided to come at him over something that is so stupid. Um not It's dumb. I'm not surprised because they do all these kinds of different crazy smears anyway. So I'm not I'm not surprised, but NBC decided to do an article about Vivek's immigration policies. And the article's Vivek Ramaswamy celebrates his immigrant family while pushing far-right border policies. And they basically say that he's like fueling like white supremacy and neo-Nazis. After Vivek Ramaswamy's explosive performance at Wednesday's night's Republican presidential debate in Milwaukee, experts say it's clear that his star is on the rise. But on that ascent, they warn, the tech millionaire is feeding dangerous ideas about immigration. Standing near center stage, Ramaswamy drew the most incoming fire from his fellow candidates, which he did because he lobbed bombs at everybody. So he dished it, so he took it. While he used little of his time to talk about his personal background, experts noted that his parents' immigrant story became a tool for him at some key moments. My parents came to this country with no money 40 years ago, he said in his opening. I have gone on to found multi billion-dollar companies. It's rhetoric that has long been used on the right, even by some of Ramaswamy's competitors, like GOP candidate Nikki Haley, to paint a picture of Asian immigrants as inherently successful and hardworking, especially compared to other minority groups, said Catherine Remus Kirsten. Butchered that name. The founder of AAPI Data, a nonprofit policy and research group. Ramaswamy has very selective reading of immigrant experience, he said. So to me, there's this thing about the model minority, and people will say that Asians are the model minority. And in the left, they'll be like, oh, the Asians, they're doing so well that they'll even like just include them as really not minorities. So if they want to say like, oh, the minorities aren't doing well on test scores, they'll group in like Asians with white people. Because they can't show that a minority is doing well, because then that destroys their narrative. So I have noticed that there is an outrage toward like these groups of like Asians who will come in and be successful and hardworking stuff. And they're kind, to me, it seems like they're trying to look down on them, like, oh, that model minority myth or whatever. There's this really viral video on, I don't remember if it was Vox, but of this Asian kid who's, there's a bunch of different Asians talking about different politics, and there's some left wing in there, and there's this one young kid. He's in a blue suit, and he just destroys everyone. And he just talks about different things that culturally that make different Asians successful. And so and people are like, oh, it's wrong to say things like that, and note like fatherless homes and other stuff in other communities. And the truth is just the truth. If people will come and live like in multi-generational households, like how my mother grew up, there were multiple generations within her household, and people come together, and they are pay the bills, and they will work together in different businesses around the community, and set up shop in a neighborhood or whatever, and open I don't know, your local hair shop or something. Like, don't come at these people, because then they'll get some money, and then be like, okay, well, maybe we don't want you working here, but we'll try to help you go off to college, and you'll work hard, and they'll drive that drive and ambition into their kids, and they want to honor their families and their parents, and they want to do well. And it culturally, there's a lot of different things going on that leads to that particular success. And they say that it's inherent. Nobody said it's inherent. Nobody said that it's inherent. It's really easy to win debates with made up arguments, but it's not inherent at all. But people who want to come to America and work hard to get here, especially when it's like merit-based immigration or whatever, but even if it's not, people who want to come here and especially strive and come here legally, um they might come with nothing in their pocket, but they're motivated to make the most out of the American dream and do the best that they can, and give a better life to their family, because why else would you come to America? So to me, it just, they don't like the story of Ramaswamy and Haley, because because they want to be able to just open the floodgates and be like, all these poor people who, you know, need to come to America and come on the by the busload to, you know, New York where they don't really want them. um and even on like the Proud Family. People were talking about the Proud Family because they had the episode where they had like white fragility and they're like, slaves built this country. And that particular episode went viral, but there was another episode when Penny went up to these kids who were, you know, in the show before, but they like upgraded them. So like in the original cartoon, they were like super high achieving stereotypical Asians, and they gave them all kind of different personalities and upgraded them so they weren't necessarily like all um I don't know if they were all super genius and stuff, but Penny went to go ask them for some help, like with academic stuff, and they chewed her out and lectured her about her assumption about them being like, oh, smart, we gotta be smart because we're Asian, right? Um, and I'm watching that clip and I'm like, did they retcon them? Because in the past they were smart. So are they just so they're just not smart anymore because you had to prove a point because you don't want people to think that Asians are smart? It just seems like they really want to. I don't understand why people would want to strip down that idea that, you know, I guess stereotypes are bad, but that's not a bad one to be. They seem so offended by it. Um, Let me read it a little bit. Especially notable, he said, was the way that Ramaswamy went on to lambast undocumented undocumented migrants crossing the southern border, which he described as an invasion. We will close the southern border where criminals are coming in every day, Ramaswamy 38 said at the debate. While that language isn't new to the GOP playbook, Ramaswamy has at times gone further than some of his rivals. He advocated for getting rid of lottery-based visas in favor of uh, metric meritocratic admission. I mean, sorry, merit admission. He also advocated for the use of military force to secure the border. Coming from a brown person and a child of immigrants, it paints a distorted view of the U.S. immigration system. Um, the expert said. So, why shouldn't it be, you know, merit based? I guess for the benefit, at least for the country, you know, when I went to the Philippines, there were people who were really trying to get over here, and one of the people who were trying to get over here, there was someone who was following us around with a satellite phone because they volunteered with the State Department to make sure we weren't kidnapped. When we went, you know, there at the time, there was a couple of different terrorist things that had happened, so it was pretty dangerous when we went. I was in the 10th grade at the time, but we didn't find out that he was like a spy ish for the government on the US behalf until we were about to go. But he was pretty nosy, like, you know, he kept showing up and, you know, asking questions and stuff like that. My dad was just like, man, this guy sure is nosy, but then he like eventually let us know. So I was at least glad that the US cared. This was back in the days of Bush, by the way. Um, but people like that. I always think about that him because I knew he wanted to come to America. So I think about these people who really work hard, who are and in the Philippines. I don't know how it is now, but at the time, like to have a job, they're like you have to be like going to college or have gone to college. Everybody knew how to, you know, they really pushed education, and everybody had dreams. A lot of people wanted to come here. They're obviously not connected to our southern border, so they have to go through other means. And wait a minute, so I always think about those other people when I think about people who are just, you know, crossing over with fake refugee status when they're just economic migrants. And I understand. Don't get me wrong. But we don't know who's all crossing. And people are bringing over drugs. And there are criminals. And there's people who are trafficking children and coyotes, which really still stunned me. Like when Trump had his debate with Biden, the people didn't know what coyotes were and were mocking Trump because they thought he meant a literal animal when he said coyotes. And like, how are coyotes going to carry children across the border? Like Wile E. Coyote? No. And it bothered me so much. I'm like, people are so passionate about this particular issue, but and it's fine if you don't know what a coyote is. I'm not trying to trash you if you didn't know, but there are people who this was like their singular issue for why they don't want to vote for Trump, including like Christians for Biden, because they see those images of like that girl on Time magazine with Trump looking down and there's a little girl crying, which by the way, that little girl was never separated from her mother. It was just, she was just like sat down for a second while they took the picture. That's what's in their heads. People separated from kids, and a lot of these people didn't even come over with a parent or a family figure. And because they were trash, because they're asked, a story just dropped right before the debate about how there were kids still separated from their parents, and Trump was like, a lot of people came over and they didn't come over with their parents, they came over with coyotes, and people were so mad. They're like, we're confused. And I don't mean like average Twitter users, I mean people in elected office. People in elected office saying, how can coyotes do this? So just remember, when people say like it's impossible for Biden to have like all these people who voted for Biden, there's a lot of stupid people. There's a lot of stupid people who vote, who are very passionate voters, guys. And again, I'm not saying that you're whatever because you don't know what that is, but there's a lot of people who were very angry enough to criticize Trump without even looking it up. That their first thought was, this man who's the president of the United States is standing on the debate stage and literally thinks that an animal is carrying children across the border. That doesn't even make any sense. That doesn't even make any sense. I have a screenshot somewhere of a photo of a collection of screenshots of so many people talking about it. I think David Hogg was one person who said something, but there was like an actual elected people into office who came at him for his coyote comments. So there's a lot of people who are coming over, obviously not the right way. Don't respect the rule of law, but there are criminals coming over. There are people on the terrorist watch list coming over. And it was crazy. They wanted to shut down all of us during COVID, but people are still coming across the border, and they trashed Trump for the kids in the cages, and Obama built those cages, and I guess Obama and Joe, I guess. And then they still had kids in cages as well, but they didn't like the optics that were coming out, so they were sending kids into the interior and other places. So Abbott in Texas got sick of people talking about the border and or not doing anything about the border, and them taking the brunt of things. So they started busing people to New York and other places, and Florida joined in as well. They send bust different people or flew people to Martha's Vineyard and stuff. And people are like, oh, he's trolling, oh, he's doing this. It is a darn good tactic, because these people have had enough. These people are upset. In Illinois, in New York, and the mayor of New York has spoken out about all these migrants, said that they cannot do this. And Kathy Hochul is also upset now about the burden that they've had to shoulder, and they're crying, and they want federal help, and they want federal assistance. So if they're crying about what they've had to endure, imagine all the little towns that are actually on the border that are being overrun by people they do not know, and that we do not know as a country.
The reality is, we've managed thus far without substantive support from Washington. And despite the fact that this is a national, indeed an inherently federal issue. But New York has shouldered this burden for far too long. Since the first migrants began arriving at the Port Authority bus terminal last year, city and state have poured tremendous funds, billions of dollars, and energy into helping them. The city has been helping by the state to manage this in partnership with our state legislature, and in our budget we allocated over $1 billion, now upwards of $1.5 billion, for providing shelter, National Guard, public health, transit, case management, and legal services to asylum seekers, especially the housing. That's in addition to the over 200 shelters and hotels that are stood up by the City of New York with the financial support from the state. But now, many of you are starting to see open space turn into enormous temporary shelters, buses arriving at hotels in several upstate counties.
Yeah, cry me a river. Cry me a river. Yeah, it's too much. It's too much, right? So you have minorities who are upset about all these people coming over and taking up all these, especially because they see the government housing them and taking care of them, and they're struggling. So there's going to be some people who, I don't know. There's people fed up. People can be fed up about a lot of stuff, but are they actually going to take the initiative to vote a different way is the question. That's the big question. Because if you keep just voting for the same people, they got rid of Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, but they got somebody worse. And by the way, in Chicago, they are suing Honda and Kia for not having proper anti-theft technology in the cars and stuff, and people's cars and stuff getting stolen. So and apparently one of them did have to settle a lawsuit some time ago, so maybe they are doing a cash grab. But it's amazing to me that you guys just won't focus on crime and trying to stop crime. So now you're suing the car companies because people's cars are getting broken into, instead of doing something and going after the criminals who are actually doing it continuously and throwing the book at them. That's just freaking wild to me. That is wild to me. So you want to look like you're doing something for the people instead of actually protecting them. But that's what's going on in Chicago. I saw that story, and as my sister was cooking, I was like, oh my gosh. And she's like, what? And I just read it out loud, and she just, kind of was like, oh my gosh, and walked away. Because it's such a crazy story. But back to this immigration thing. Again, they just seem like really annoyed about the model mind that Vivek and Haley are like the model minorities, and kind of like, how dare you pull up the ladder. That's something they say. They pull these people coming in, and they pull up the ladder behind them. And they said, yes, most Indian Americans came to the United States on employment-based visas and family visas, but Indian Americans have a sizable undocumented immigrant population in the U.S., and that's important to acknowledge. Indian immigrants have tried to cross the border because of how difficult it is to come through a family visa sponsorship. Yes, it is. It can be difficult while people are waiting to get through too. I think Rick Santorum talked about his family, how they had to wait and stuff, getting in. Someone in his family, I don't know if it was his dad or grandfather or something, had to came to America to try to help them get over, and eventually they did. But I guess it had to be like a grandfather or something. And how tough that was. It's not easy, but that doesn't give you the right to break our laws. That doesn't say like, we respect America, want to be U.S. citizens, like coming in and breaking our laws. And there's a lot of people taking advantage. There'll be a surge of people who come in, while other folks will come in like at other different sections bringing in drugs, while and like in a border patrol will be looking at this herd, while you have other people smuggling all kinds of fentanyl and other stuff. So it feels like an invasion when you look at videos and there's all these able-bodied men don't look like refugees who need to get to the US because there's other safe haven places that they could go to, but they don't care. So you guys can read this article. I posted it on well, you can just Google it. but I did post it on my YouTube, and I guess I'll post it on Facebook. It's a really, or maybe I'll write up something myself and just kind of dive into how stupid this is. But again, I've I've had some words about Vivek, but I'm not gonna I mentioned yesterday everybody's gonna have some kind of bias, but I will try to be fair. But I'm not gonna get into all the reasons why I'm not a fan right now, but I'm not. But that doesn't mean that I want NBC to say that he's inspiring, white supremacist rhetoric, and that he's some kind of neo-Nazi or something crazy like that. I'm not going to stand for something like that. But on a side note, does it suck when people say untrue things about you? Just let that, I guess, simmer for a little bit. Because he lobs some accusations at his competitors that aren't quite legit. So anyway, I did say I would show you this before I left. So this is the last thing I want to show you guys before I go, because I said that I would. LifeSite put out this video of a bunch of Democrats saying that they were for abortion on demand. So a lot of people are denying that this stuff happens, or denying that Democrats feel this way. It is not the case. And I don't know, maybe they just don't expect other people to look it up. And again, there's people who will say this doesn't happen, and they'll say, we'll say that there's evidence, and they'll pretend that there is no evidence, and we'll try to show it, but we're in our algorithm, and then theirs, and the people who follow them, a lot of them will continue to be ignorant. So it's important for you guys to see stuff like this and know stuff like this, and so you have this information, so you can at least tell people that in real life, because real life still happens outside of the world of social media, and you can still talk to your family and your friends and your neighbors, so they can make informed decisions about who they're going to choose, to be your governor, to be your congressperson, to be your senator, and so on. So I just want to arm you with this information. I probably still will cut something like this, but I'm glad that they decided to put something like this together, and I'm not surprised that they do. I follow them, they do follow me. So here we go.
Do you support any restrictions on abortion?
I don't. I've always believed.
Even in the third trimester?
Do you think there should be any limitation on abortion?
No, I do not.
Up till now, my understanding is there wasn't a limit on when in pregnancy a woman could receive an abortion. Have you set any limit on
There
that?
are no limits.
Is there a cutoff for you before that point?
No, to me, it's a reproductive, it's a healthcare decision. It's up to women to make that decision.
Where it's obvious that a woman is about to give birth, she has physical signs of that she is about to give a birth. Would that still be a point at which she could request an abortion if she was so certified?
My bill would allow that, yes.
Virginia's governor says he has no regrets on his comments earlier this week defending abortion, even as a baby is being born.
If a mother is in labor, I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mothers.
Are you for what he said, or late-term abortion, or the moments that he was talking about where you would keep a woman comfortable after she was giving birth in case she wanted to abort her third-term child?
I don't know all his comments, but what I do know is that I am for women having the right to make a choice about her own body.
State lawmakers in New York approved a law permitting abortion in the state up until birth. Cuomo applauded the legislation and marked the occasion by lighting the spire of the One World Trade Center pink to celebrate.
8 months into pregnancy, should a woman be allowed legally to have an abortion?
Again, I've told you I believe women's right to choose, period.
At the Capitol today, a House committee approved a bill that would remove restrictions on abortions performed in Minnesota.
The bill would erase the requirements such as parental notification, or that clinics can only handle first trimester abortions, that patients be told about possible links to cancer, and the 24-hour waiting period. The bill would repeal a law that requires doctors to save any baby born alive during an abortion.
Those in favor of Prop 1 include Governor Newsom, the California Democratic Party, and abortion rights groups such as the Planned Parenthood affiliates of California.
It would remove all restrictions on abortion, allowing for late-term abortion, even up until the moment of birth, even if both mother and baby are healthy.
He is vowing to fight here and says this new law makes it very clear where California stands on the issue as a sanctuary for abortion care.
Governor Gavin Newsom announced a new abortion marketing website establishing California as the nation's taxpayer-funded abortion state.
The president is prepared to sign the Women's Health Protection Act, the so-called Women's Health Protection Act, that would have nullified state and religious freedom laws across the country with respect to abortions and allowed late-term abortions without any notable restrictions in most cases.
Does he support any limits on abortion?
He supports the right of a woman to make choices about her own body.
Do you support any limitation on abortion, or do you think that women should have the right to have an abortion all the way up to 9 months?
That should be a choice made between a doctor and a woman. You do it by not setting arbitrary gestational limits.
Do you believe at any point in pregnancy, whether it's at 6 weeks or 8 weeks or 24 weeks or whenever, that there should be any limit on a woman's right to have an abortion?
I trust women to draw the line.
Senator Warren, would you put limits on any limits on abortion?
I would make certain that every woman has access to the full range of reproductive health care services, and that includes birth control, it includes abortion.
Any kind of limit for abortion. Where do you go? 15 weeks? What do you do? Where do you go?
Look, there is no one size fits all limit.
You would veto any law with any limit on abortion?
I would veto any additional restrictions on abortion that are sent to my desk as governor, yes.
Do you believe that a woman should be able to terminate a pregnancy up until the moment of birth?
Look, I think that happens very, very rarely. But at the end of the day, I believe that the decision over abortion belongs to a woman and a physician.
My question was about any limits to abortion at any point. You know, late term, anything?
You got to leave it up to the woman.
Do you believe there should be any restrictions on abortion?
I don't.
I was born September 8th, 1989, and I want to know if you think on September 7th, 1989, my life had no value.
This is a decision that neither you nor I nor the United States government should be making. That's a decision for the woman to make.
So, you know what? LifeSite shared that. I did not realize that was actually the DeSantis war room that made that. So kudos to them. That was a really great video. But he did mention on the debate stage that they want to support abortion up to the time of birth. And then Jen Psaki and other journalists are like, oh, no one says that. And also politicians who supported it were like, no one does that. And so I'm glad that they compiled these receipts together. So I was, surprised at the end because I thought LifeSite made it. So that was really good video. There's moments I want to pause to talk about it. Really, I wanted to pause it and pipe in when that kid asked that question of Beto O'Rourke, and what a great question to name your birth date and the day before. Do you think I had no value? And he has the audacity to say, well, you don't get to make that decision. That's true, because he would have been an innocent child who couldn't advocate for himself. But at that point in time, he certainly could have, felt when they jabbed a needle through his heart to make him have a heart attack. What would you? They probably wouldn't do. They probably had to do like a partial. I guess they. Literally the day before doesn't make sense because it takes time to get him out. But I guess if if they were ready to, I don't know how that would work at that point. I think DeSantis and the Republicans should change up their language a little bit, because they are going to keep denying that they support this. Those are great receipts. Someone asked if I would share the URL. I don't know if I let me put in the comments and see if that'll work. So I just put it in the comments. But I think they should say Democrats are in support of abortions for healthy women on healthy, viable babies. Because when you say that they'll have late-term abortions, they will say, "Oh, but women would only do that if they're if the baby is if her life is in danger, or the baby like isn't compatible with life." That's what they'll go to, because that's what the fact checkers tried to do. For like the Washington Post, they just shift the conversation. Instead of just admitting that DeSantis was right, instead of admitting that Democrats actually do this, they just wanted to be like, oh, what the reality is that all this stuff is just, barely even happens at all, and Republicans are trying to paint a misconception. So no, they're not trying to paint a misconception, because it's still more than 10,000 plus babies every year being killed late term and stuff. So it's still, I don't know, a number I'm not okay with. So they need to make it known that these are viable, healthy babies being aborted by healthy women. So make the conversation a little more real to people and give them less wiggle room. That kid asked a great question of Beto, and he still said you don't get to make that decision. How monstrous. How monstrous. How monstrous. Anyway, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I hope you guys enjoyed the conversation. You guys enjoyed the show. Please go to blacktnews.com, check out different content on my website, different articles, different videos, etc. I do have some needs here at blacktnews.com, so if you can support, I thank you guys for what you have done. And if you're willing to do anything, there's a link in the description take you to the website, and you guys can go to the donate page, whether it's a small gift of $10, $25. If you guys can give more, thank you so much. God bless you. Thank you guys for all of your support, who watch live, those who watch it back. There is merch that you guys can get. I did make some Trump stuff. I saw some people already got it. I took a minute on this gold chain, so y'all hope y'all appreciate this gold chain from the president here. So I do have there's the hoodie there, and on the back it says MAGA for life. And this mug also says MAGA for life, and t-shirt as well. So you guys can pick that up at blacktnews.com, and you guys can check out other merch that we got. We got pro-life stuff, life wins, pro KC aborted. This was my pride flag, some XX club lifetime membership, XX woman, and crack is whack. Trump 2024. We got some free Canada stuff. Oh my gosh, there was so interesting news today, but we'll have to talk later about what's going on with Jordan Peterson. He may lose his license because he's criticized the government and they don't like what he says on social media. So they want him to be they want him to be indoctrinated and go through like a re-education camp that he has to pay for. So the courts ruled on against him. So he's gonna I guess appeal it and fight it and stuff. So we'll see what happens. But I guess that's something to talk about on Monday. Thank you guys very much, and I hope you guys enjoy your weekend. God bless.